Welcome to English Classes Online. I am Benjamin. Today's video is about Waec Rudiments of Comprehension. Our focus will be on the basics of answering comprehension questions in the West African Senior School Certificate Examination, National Examinations Council Senior School Certificate Examinations, and the Nabteb English exams as well. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. You will find a red button tagged subscribe. Just click on it and you will be subscribed to this channel, and what that implies is that you will have free access to all the videos we upload on this channel. Click on the bell icon as well so that you will receive regular notifications when new videos are uploaded. Let's dive into the lesson right away. What is Waec Rudiments of Comprehension all about? Of course, as I hinted earlier, we are focusing on giving you the essentials. We want to give you the keys you need that will enable you to easily answer questions on Waec, Neco, and Nabteb comprehension questions. We shall be looking at different types of questions and how to answer them. We shall be looking at the reading techniques. We shall be looking at ways of unlocking a passage and how to take the right steps in order to get the correct answers to these comprehension questions. All these and much more we shall be looking at in this video. But first, let's consider this important question. How important is comprehension? To you as a student, comprehension is important to you in the sense that you need to answer comprehension questions correctly in order to pass your English exams excellently. To those of you who are not going to sit for any English exams, it might interest you to know that comprehension has gone beyond the classroom and the exam hall, because many organizations now use comprehension to test the English proficiency of their applicants before employing them. Besides, comprehension itself is central to success in all fields of life, and that is because comprehension is about your ability to understand what you have read or heard, which will in turn enable you to explain, analyze, summarize, report, or respond to related questions. All these are central to success in all fields of life. Why students pick wrong answers, or why students give wrong answers to comprehension questions? The first reason is rushing to answer a question you have not actually understood. You need to understand the question before you answer the question. Number two, using sentiment. Sometimes students even bring an idea from outside the passage. But the best thing to do in answering a comprehension question is to look for the evidence in the passage. Then another reason is ambiguity caused by unfamiliar words in the passage, and this is because students tend to focus on unfamiliar words instead of trying to use the method I call the contextualization approach. You don't need to look up the meaning of every unfamiliar word you find in a passage. You can just contextualize. In general terms, when you contextualize, it means you consider something together with the situation, events, or information related to it, instead of looking at that thing in isolation. So when you apply this to unfamiliar words in the passage, it means you have to consider the words that come before and after that unfamiliar word, because this will help you in figuring out the actual meaning. Now, let's look at the reading procedure. Of course, you know, people have taught different reading techniques, and there are many and varied. But I always ask my students to pick the one that works for them. You know, as a student or as one who has already left the secondary school, you must have learned different reading techniques. Pick the one that works for you. I recommend the following simple procedure. Number one, read through the questions first. This will give you prior information about what you are going to look for in the passage. You know, I don't emphasize this so much for the comprehension. I emphasize this technique more for the summary. And the reason is obvious. In summary writing, once you read the question, you know, you don't have so many questions in the summary. You may have like 1, 2, or 3, but in comprehension you can have so very many questions. So this may not be as helpful to you as it could be when writing a summary. However, it is equally important, and I will tell you why. Already stated here, you have the prior knowledge. All right, you have the prior knowledge. By reading the question first, you already have a clear picture of what the passage is about before you even start reading it. So that is really that gives you some added advantage. Number two, read the passage, you know, and make sure you understand what it is about. And in this case, I must emphasize that you need to concentrate. You need to read for meaning, read with a purpose, read for discovery. You have already read the question, so as you are reading, you might discover some portion of the passage giving you the answer to the questions you have already read. So you take note of it. You have discovered the answer right away, and you need to shorten the time you spend in answering exam questions. So it helps you in time management. It helps you to shorten the time. Step number 3, read the questions again. This time you are ready to answer the questions one by one. So as you read the question again, you are now picking number 1 question and you are going back to the passage. And this brings us to step number 4, scan for evidence in the passage before writing down the answers. I must emphasize at this point that answers to comprehension questions are evidence-based. You should look for the evidence in the passage. Alright? And when we discuss the various types of comprehension questions, you will also understand that you need a combination of evidence from the passage and evidence from your background knowledge. Then, keys for unlocking a Waec, Neco, or Nabteb comprehension passage. This is really very important. Number 1, subject matter and thesis statement. You know, what do we mean by subject matter? Subject matter is the topic, you know. In some passages, such as the Waec and Neco and Nabteb, you may not be necessarily given a title. But once you read the first paragraph, you will discover the subject matter or the topic, what the whole passage is all about. And then the thesis statement is a single sentence that gives you the whole message, the central message of the whole passage, is contained in a sentence called the thesis statement. That gives you the writer's point of view, the central message that the writer is conveying in that whole passage. Now, identifying the subject matter and the thesis statements, of what benefit will that be? Well, that will give you the writer's central message, as earlier mentioned. Then it will facilitate your understanding of the whole message. When you understand what the message is all about, this will facilitate your understanding of the various parts of the message. Number 2, topic sentences. Each paragraph contains one main idea, and that is what we call the topic sentence, which means when you lay your hands on the topic sentence, which is usually a single sentence, sometimes it may be the first sentence in a paragraph, all right, it tells you what the whole paragraph is all about, and that also helps you to unlock the passage, because it makes the meaning of the passage clearer to you. The third key is the structure, and this has to do with considering all the parts that make up the whole passage. As earlier mentioned, every passage has an introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And in the introductory paragraph, you will find the subject matter and the thesis that gives you the topic of the whole passage. Then in the body paragraphs, which begin with paragraph 2, you begin to see the topic sentences that will give you the message of each paragraph. All right, and then in the third part of the passage, you have the conclusion, which is the last paragraph that usually summarizes all the main ideas the writer has discussed. So that helps you in unlocking the passage, because it helps you to know the various parts that make up the whole paragraph, and then you have the big picture. So that's another way of unlocking the passage. Then key number 4, which I consider equally very important, is the comprehension questions themselves. Each comprehension question gives you the keywords. These keywords will be the context clues. A clue is something that gives you some idea, about something else, Like I mentioned when we were looking at the reading procedure, once you read the questions, you get an overall picture of the whole passage, even before reading a single sentence in the passage. So the comprehension questions give you the keywords, and you will use these keywords to search for the facts in the passage. That will really simplify the reading process for you. All right, so let's look at other things. Now we come to the stage of answering the questions, and of course there are various types of comprehension questions, and each type requires a different approach. This is where most students get it wrong, because they tend to answer all comprehension questions in the same way. We are going to examine the various types of comprehension questions one by one and explain how to answer each type of question. This will help you to really get it right, because in comprehension, what is required is precision. You need to be precise. Now let's look at the various types of comprehension questions. Number 1, we have factual questions. These are also called direct questions. because they require picking the information directly from the passage. Now let's take some example with the Wassce of November 1919. Question BI, how did Hitler die? II, why? These are factual or direct questions, because if you read the passage, you will discover that the passage reported clearly how Hitler died, and you will find that Hitler killed himself. And the passage also reported why he killed himself. He killed himself because he hated to surrender himself to the enemy that had already approached Berlin and were shooting from at close range. So he didn't want to submit himself to them. So after reading the questions, go back to the passage and search for the specific portion that contains the answers. So that is factual questions. Then we have the second type of question is called inferential questions. The word inferential is derived from the word infer. Another word for it is to figure out or to interpret, and they are based on things implied in the passage. And you need to interpret the information available because they are not directly stated, they are not explicitly stated in the passage. Now let's take some example from Wassce of June 2000. Why do you think the psychologist wore a knowing smile? The passage didn't give us a direct answer to this. It's not explicitly stated in the passage why the psychologist wore a knowing smile. However, after reading the passage, you can infer or deduce or figure out from the available information the reason why he wore a knowing smile. The third type of comprehension question is called grammatical questions. This is the kind of question that requires you to have some grammatical knowledge, and it always asks you questions about the grammatical name and the function of a particular expression taken from the passage. For example, let's take this example. While he was dictating these words, we are taking an example from the previous the passage about Hitler. While he was dictating these words, then that's the expression lifted from the passage. Then two questions are asked on it. What is the grammatical name used to describe the above expression as used in the passage? What is the function of the expression in the sentence? These are grammatical questions, so you need to know the grammatical structures and their functions in order to answer this type of questions. You need to have some knowledge about English grammar. Now, it doesn't require writing in sentences. You simply state the grammatical name and function. This is how to answer this question. When we look at this, you need to find the particular sentence in the passage that contains this expression. Then write out the sentence, and then you can look at it and you'll be able to know the grammatical name. And by looking at it, you discover that it is called an adverbial clause of time. And then what function does it perform in the sentence? It modifies the verb phrase had encircled. So you can look for one of the videos I earlier uploaded where I took a past Waec question and then I explained this in details. Alright? How to extract the sentence, how to look at the grammatical name, how to figure out the grammatical function. Or you can also look for some of the videos I have uploaded on types of clauses, alright, types of sentences, and various other grammar topics that I have uploaded. Then let's look at the fourth type of comprehension question, and that is figures of speech. You know, you need to understand what figures of speech are: metaphor, simile, personification, oxymoron, and so on and so forth. Now, these are words that are not used in their literal sense, but they are used to create some mental pictures in the reader. Now let's look at such expressions. Let's take some examples from a particular passage in the past questions. Now look at this particular one. Consider the question, the bombshell fell. You know, the bombshell fell. Then the questions are, what figure of speech is the above expression? That's question I. Question II, what is its meaning? And this is taken from Wassce of June 1995. Answers to these types of questions also require to be stated and not to be explained. You don't say, you know, the name of the figure of speech is this or that, blah blah. No, simply write metaphor, that if that is the figure of speech, and then the very shocking news came. That's just the meaning. All right, so state it quite precisely without going into any storytelling. Number 5 is vocabulary questions. You know, in this type of questions, you are given some words that are underlined in the passage, and you are asked to look for another word or phrase that mean the same and can replace the word as it is used in the passage. So what is required here is not just the words nearest in meaning, but what I call the contextual synonyms, because a contextual synonym is the word that can replace the word exactly as it is used in that particular passage or sentence. Now, for example, the meaning of man can change from one context to another, as shown in the following sentence. You know, or less sentences. Sentence I, Musa is a man. The meaning of man here is an adult male human being. But if in a second sentence we say Musa was asked to man the engine room, then the meaning of man changes from a human being to an action. You know, Musa was asked to control the engine room or to take charge of the engine room. Alright, so that is exactly what that means. And once you have some active vocabulary, at least you know the meanings of words, you know some English words, you'll be able to answer these questions. But it's not necessarily knowing words and their meanings, but you have to use an approach that I call the contextualization approach. I earlier explained it when I was talking about the keys for unlocking the passage. Now look at the way the word has been used in a sentence. Look at sentence II. Musa was asked to man the engine room. You may not really know what it means in this context, but ask yourself, Musa was asked to man the engine room. What can I use to replace this word? Musa was asked to dash the engine room. Then some replacement can naturally come to your mind. Musa was asked to guard the engine room, to control the engine room, to supervise the engine, to take charge of the engine room. You know, something equivalent will naturally come to your mind if you give it a thought. Okay? Now, the last thing we need to know about answering comprehension questions is that your answers need to be presented accurately. So we are talking of accurate presentation of answers. You know, precision is the key. You need to present your answers in simple sentences where necessary, like the factual questions, the inferential questions. You know, you need to present them in simple sentences unless when you are asked to do otherwise. But where sentences are not necessary, simply state your answers in words or phrases as exemplified in the case of the grammatical questions, figures of speech, and in the case of the vocabulary questions, all you need to do is to replace the word. Alright? You simply write I, and if the given word is man, okay, then you write man. You write man, and then you write equals control. Man equals control. This is how to present the answer. You know, this is I, this is I. Oh, okay, let's take it as I, because in that example it was actually sentence I that has the meaning of has the word control as replacement for man. Alright, so that's exactly the way it is. And if you are presenting your answers to be accurate also, you need to specifically write the alphabet of the answer. You know, the comprehension questions are set in alphabet A, B, C, D, E. Some students begin to fail when they replace these alphabets with figures, you know, and they write number 1, number 2, number 3. No, you cannot change the nomenclature of the question. You cannot change what you have been you cannot change from alphabet to Roman figure or to digits. You cannot. Where you have A, question A, the answer should be answer A. You have question B, the answer should be answer B. And then where you have like G, and then you have I, you answer it in the same way. You know, don't change the goalposts in the middle of the match. All right, always state the exact number the examiner has asked you to answer, and if it is alphabet, you state the alphabet. All right, so that's how it has been in today's video. We have been looking at how to answer comprehension questions, and I believe that we have been able to do justice to the topic. I hope you have clearly understood how to answer comprehension questions in the Wassce, Neco, Ssce, and Nabteb English exams. That's how it has been in today's video, as this is where we draw the curtain. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Click on the subscribe button below and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are uploaded on the channel, you will be notified instantly. Thank you for being part of today's episode. See you in the next video. and bye for now.